The country was already very aware of the excesses of those that were involved in corruption. The perception in the country was very strong, and people believed in that something ought to be done about this, and we did not know what.
When I left here, after being the director of the regional office in '91, I felt somewhat defeated. I also felt somewhat abandoned by my World Bank, by my wonderful World Bank with whom I had spent 25 years, because it was a captive of its governments, of its members, of its partners, at a time when the world had not yet understood that corruption is one of the most devastating phenomena of this world.
It didn't look very feasible.
No.
Because for someone to leave the World Bank and go and start, we call it Transparency International, but it wasn't exactly as defined in that. It was purely an organization to go and fight corruption, because the name came later on. And all the development around it. But at that time it was an idea. But all the good ideas come from a discussion by two people around the table and exchanging views. And that's how we met with Joe and Peter, bouncing ideas on each other. But then when Peter left the World Bank, sure enough, he went and started the TI, Transparency International.
We do not think that the Kenyan chapter will ever take off. Yeah, that we were making progress internationally, and the idea that was started off seen as an idea for Africa was being received by the rest of the world much more openly. And Peter, who did remarkable work from the beginning, was literally an international statesman.
The earliest relationships were with Joe Andrew and Harris Muller. They're the ones who said, get on with it, do it. They gave me the parameters. Says, okay, we're going to let you, we want you to run this thing. It was actually, it was wild, really, if we think about it now.
Held on to the chapter, it sort of incubated it and made sure that it survived in the mind throughout and tried to navigate the regime to get it registered. And obviously, once it got registered, it was quite clear that they were not going to sort of do the slogging and do the work.
The organization had no money. John pretty much was financing things from his pocket. He had a board, but really, and they provided guidance, but essentially John was doing everything.
99 was when we started talking about the idea.
Yeah.
And what will its programs be? That one will be research, one will be advocacy, and one will be public awareness. For 1.5 years, it was for free.
And the way it was 3 of us at that particular time that worked on the program specifically. David D., John, and myself. They were thinking of getting involved in a way of monitoring and researching the real corruption practices.
At the county level, we have worked with county governments to help them strengthen the legislative framework for the fight against corruption in their counties. Specifically, in Kisumu County, we have helped them develop a county code of ethics that is now in force. In Busia County, we have helped them develop a county anti-corruption plan. And in Trans Nzoia, we helped the county government of Trans Nzoia develop the first county strategy on education, the first one of its kind. We have also worked to strengthen institutions of governance through supporting sound procurement know-how and practices. And we worked closely on this with the National Environmental Management Authority, public schools, and county governments. We have also strengthened the integrity of recruitment processes, especially of those institutions that carry out mass public recruitment, like the military, the police, the Kenya Forest Service, and the Kenya Wildlife Service. We have deployed technology in our work. The complaints handling function, that is the core of our engagement with the public, has benefited significantly from the deployment of technology. So this platform, what we call Uwajibikaji Pamoja, was initiated as a follow-up of the recommendations of a study that was done in 2011, focusing on the food aid assistance within the context of the drought that ravaged this region.
In doing all this work, one is called upon to have enough resources in the form of money and even human resources or people, to do the work. We are called upon by many counties today to see whether we can have these programs in their areas, but we are not able to do it because we have no resources.
Well, I think it's been a tough journey. When Transparency International was founded, corruption was not a very welcome conversation to have, and governments frowned upon it. In particular, if you speak to the founders of TI Kenya, they will tell you that they used to speak about corruption in a very hushed tones in people's homes and not in public places. Because at that point in time, corruption was prevalent, but it was highly centralized, with patronage at a political level. So it was a tough beginning. But over time, I think, and thanks to the work that Transparency International Kenya has been doing, this is something we talk about freely and openly, and we have acknowledged it as a problem that needs to be addressed.
The corruption in Kenya is worse than it was when Transparency International was started. And we thought that when we started in the early 90s, mid-90s, that it could never get worse. And for a while, the fighting of corruption went into high gear. But we now have this very, very contradictory situation where we have one of the best legal and institutional frameworks of fighting corruption in Africa. At the same time, we have very high levels of grand corruption, and especially corruption that is perpetrated by the ruling elite.
We look forward with hope to yet another 20 years of eliminating corruption and patching up the ethical fabric in Kenya. A corruption-free Kenya. Viva TI Kenya. Viva, viva to all of you. Thank you.